Jay Gruden, obviously brother of John Gruden, was the head coach in Washington with the then called Redskins. And they drafted in the first round USC safety Sua Cravens. Well, as let me get the quote exactly here from Jay Gruden says on a podcast, Sua Cravens was one when he was asked about, players maybe he didn't want. He said Sua Cravens was one we had a lot of different opinions on. I didn't want the guy at all, just because he didn't fit. He wasn't a safety. He played outside linebacker. We didn't, he's too little, not because he wasn't a good kid or a good player, just there was nowhere to put him. And then if you go back and then Sua Cravens comes back and says, I'd agree with Jay Gruden. When I was drafted, they told me I was playing safety at first, but then when I arrived to minicamp, they're putting me in the linebacker room as an inside linebacker, a position he'd never played in his career before. So it felt like I had to relearn the game of football, and it made me kind of doubt my own abilities, and then so on a lot longer. But if you're the head coach here, do you stand up if this is something you say, no, we're not drafting him, I don't care? Maybe he didn't have final say. Maybe the GM did, and the GM really wanted him. But we see these type of players like Sua Cravens that are safeties, but kind of linebackers, and they never really make it in the NFL trying to do both. Isaiah Simmons, remember from Clemson? Drafted, I think, 8th overall by the Cardinals. They tried to kind of move them all around and use them as a weapon on defense. Well, it's kind of a lot harder to do it in the NFL than it is in college, I guess, because it's not working with most players. So where do you stand on the Jay Gruden, Sua Cravens? He's a former Trojan, was a great player there at USC.
Oh, I loved him. Oh, he
and
sure
this
was.
Comes out. Yeah. Oh, and he was physical. He fit the style that USC used to have, that physical safety that would come down and knock your teeth out every single time. But where do you stand on this situation in this story?
And Segs, college, with the way you work around, you see a lot of teams that are playing 5 and 6 DBs, use them as line. I mean, it happens all the time. And we substitute nickel and dime packages and the rest of it. He's just what is obviously known as a tweener. Mm-hmm. And now I can tell you one thing that Jay Gruden or nobody else can question is how tough the guy was and how good he was at playing. He's not an inside box linebacker. You got to play him in space. Now, he'll hit you. I've seen guys like this, dude, that will knock your dick right in the dirt. But when you're a Swiss Army knife, what happens is it's hard to focus on practice, just on practice. Go play this position. Now we want you to run down special teams. Now we're going to put you're going to play in the safety box in that lane. And now we're going to play it outside linebacker. But what happens is, Segs, is that you're too big. I mean, you're not a 4-3 guy to play corner or cover a slot, even though you can. But you're a safety / outside linebacker, and then you try to move around. Now he's trying to learn through. And day to day when you come to work, it takes a unique cat to be able to deal with that. And when people say, well, look at the guy like Bob Sanders, who was 5'7", 206, though. Sanders was 200 pounds and was a true strong safety. And then in certain situations, you just bring him down as a box safety. We've seen that a lot of times in the league. But he was a tweener to the point where in their scheme, it just didn't fit. I understand Jay Gruden. Why? I'm sure he went in there and probably said, listen, this isn't for me. Here's who I want. Here's who I don't want. And the people in Washington, which have had plenty of dysfunction in their past, probably gave him no say in who they were to draft. That's a normal occurrence. We say, well, did it happen in Minnesota? That you trade away all the guys, the GM's gone because, well, you didn't give J.J. McCarthy, Kevin O'Connell, maybe he wanted to draft J.J. McCarthy, but maybe he didn't want to get rid of Sam Darnold. Does that make sense, Segs? Whatever in those rooms they talk about. So if you're Jay Gruden, I understand, because you got to be a unique, different person. When people say, well, there's a lot of guys, name me 5 that are dominant players that are tweeners. I always believe you got to have a set position in a defense that accentuates that, and then in the process expand out and say, well, we can use him. He's versatile. We can use him more one position. But when you're playing interior inside the tackle box and you're a 200-pound guy, that's hard to contend with, Sakes. It really is. The game's changed. So in space is a better position. You can hit what's moving. So I get what Jay's talking about, but I also get what Cravens is talking about, that you get to the point where you do lose confidence if you don't have a normal position. The Ben Zobrists of football don't exist very often,
Right.
Segs. They're just not out. Randall L played inside wide receiver. You could put him at running back, or who's in, my guy from San Francisco, who's was in Washington as well. The Deebo Samuel guy. The offensive Swiss Army knife, different, because I can use you in space. I got a package for you. But as an everyday player, a tweener, you got to let him settle in a position, but it's also got to be a defense that believes and build around you. And some may have said, well, we're just going to draft best available. Cravens was a hell of a football player in college. He just didn't work in that scheme, and one thing leads to another, and he's an opinionated guy. Jay didn't want him. Doesn't mean he didn't like him. Just didn't fit for what he wanted, and there wasn't a place for him. I think that exists in more NFL organizations than you think. Neither guy's wrong. And Jay admitting that he didn't want him's fine. I'm sure Cravens probably got a feel for that when he was there, but didn't have a place for him. And Cravens is a good football player, just didn't work out as far as the length of his career that he wanted. But I'll take his college career and his ability to knock people around all day, every day when he was in college.
Yeah.